Welcome to the Ministry and Podcast, authentic conversations about lament, endurance, and hope. This podcast is a production of the CCL Network.
I have served in vocational ministry for the past 24 years. Now I oversee the ministry of 11 church planting partners in 4 different post-Soviet states. My name is Alexandr Lukmanov, and this is my story of ministry and amazement.
Welcome back to the Ministry and Podcast. I'm Heather Walton, and
I'm Mike Edmiston. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode as we talk about ministry and amazement with our friend Sasha, who is in Russia. And we're really looking forward to the conversation today. You know, the word amazement, the word amazing is a word we throw around a lot. In the church, we sing it a lot. At least in the U.S., one of the most well-known hymns of all time, of course, is Amazing Grace, and we talk about amazing things in ministry, but the truth is ministry is hard, and the pain and even just the drudgery of ministry can rob us of the amazement that we once had, and we stagnate, we grow stale, we think about jumping ship because it feels like we've lost the amazement of what Jesus has done for us and what he does in his church and through his people. So I'm looking forward to having the fire's flame today, Heather. I'm looking forward to this.
yeah. So when I hear the word amazement, I always think of this kid's book that we used to read a lot. My daughter loved it when she was really small. It's called Ronnie Wilson's Gift. It was written by Francis Chan, but it starts out by Ronnie hearing the story of Jesus, the gift that Jesus is, and it says, "That's amazing. That's amazement." Like he was just full of amazement. And so that's what it always reminds me of is just her little voice saying, "That's amazement." So that's a phrase we use in our home a lot. That's amazement. And so
cool.
I think that that's really what we're trying to come around to in this episode is just the hope that Jesus brings is amazing. So
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sasha,
So
can
Sasha,
you start off by giving us a little bit of your background so we can understand some more of your context?
All right. Well, I haven't read that book that you mentioned, Heather, but as a matter of fact, Mike, Amazing Grace is one of the first songs that I ever learned when I became a Christian. And that was back in 1992. I was just
yeah.
11-year-old boy. A couple of missionaries came over to my hometown of Kostroma, and they began the ministry. They planted a church, and one of the BBSs, I was just a normal Russian kid, and the story of Jesus grabbed me, and that was pretty amazing, considering that my parents were never believers, never showed any interest in the religion. Yet, a few years down the road, pretty much my entire family began attending church. We were immersed into Christ, and it just began to unravel ever since that, and it's been amazing. Being a 17-year-old, I went to study at St. Louis Christian College. That was pretty amazing, all the way around. I mean, it's probably every Russian kid's dream to travel to the U.S., so mine became true, and that was amazing. But even more amazing, the fact that 4 years down the road, I was willing, and it was my intention to go back home to Russia to minister to my native people. So one of the first places that I began ministering was the place that I mentioned in the very beginning, the small town church of Gush Hrustalny. It's a small town. I mean, 40,000 people. I know by U.S. standards, it's probably a good size city.
It's at least mid-sized. Sure, yeah.
But considering the places here in Russia, 40,000 really a small place. So yeah, and I was fresh out of college, not married, Again, this is also amazing because as I look back at this right now, I'm amazed as who would entrust a 21-year-old kid who is not even married, who doesn't have kids of his own, to be in charge of the body of Christ. I understand it's a small town, it's a small congregation, but still, maybe I can switch the word amazing to crazy. No, I'm kidding. But it was. It was pretty amazing, and I guess whatever I was doing did the job because I stuck around for 16 years. And during those 16 years, a lot of amazing things happened. I met my love, my wife, Ksenia. We got married back in 2007, and we had 3 of 4 of our children. Ivan, Sophie, and Zhenya, and so many other cool things that we got to do. And then at one point, we felt like God was calling us to something larger. From the very beginning of my ministry, I had this vision, desire of planting a church. And a little context, the church in Gusrustania, the small town, it already existed when I arrived, so it wasn't quite what I dreamt about. So now we got this opportunity to really do what I dreamt about from the very beginning. So we packed up, we transferred the leadership over to other people. We put together a team that helped us out, and we moved to this large place, a huge city, 1.5 million, Nizhny Novgorod, former Gorky, and it's pretty amazing. The city where I grew up, Kostroma, it's about 400,000 people, a regional center, but still it's nothing compared to a place like Nizhny Novgorod. This is a huge city with tons of people, lots of traffic. The speed of light was so fast. And but we fell in love with the city, we fell in love with people, and we had a passion for this place, and still have it 7 years down the road. And it's amazing what God has been doing in these 7 years in Nizhny Novgorod with the church planting ministry, but also so much wider with mission to Russia work that I oversee, with church planting in the Russian-speaking countries. It's pretty amazing.
So let's go back to you starting as a young man in a small town in an established church. When you look back on that, what do you see God doing in you there to prep you for what you're doing now? Because like you said, that, this wasn't quite what I envisioned. It wasn't what I dreamed, but, I'm here, I'm going to serve. How did God shape you and form you to get you ready to launch you into the amazing things that are happening now?
I guess one of the biggest things is that I'm the type of person that, I see a problem, I see that something that needs to be done, and I jumped into it. I just automatically start doing something about it. And that's not very productive, effective, not very good in a sense of church planting and just all around ministry. Let me clarify what I mean. If the church would be only about me doing stuff, then we would have the most amazing church ever. But
that's right.
But God didn't really intend it that way. He puts together these different, sometimes very awkward people, but yet gifted by God to do what he wants with his agenda. And as Paul talks about it, in his epistles, we're the body of Christ, we're the members, we are the parts of the body, and we work together. And one cannot say to another, "Hey, you're no good to me," you're useless.
Right.
So it's about working together. So it's about working together. So it's about working together.
There really is nothing like the church when it's working right, and nothing worse than when it isn't. The key to church growth is church health, and the key to a healthy church is found in creating healthy systems. At the CCL Network, we are fully committed to helping churches thrive by enabling them to do an assessment of 7 key church body systems. This fantastic and customized data enables you and your church leaders to make good decisions instead of guessing that will maximize church health and impact. The CCL Network will be hosting various one-day church health clinics around the country in 2026 where more teachings and resources will be shared, and you can even join a healthy church co-op with other churches in your area with 12 months of personal coaching. For more information and cost, contact our Healthy Church Director, David Vaughn, at david.vaughn@ccleadership.org. That's david.vaughn @ccleadership.org.
Right. So it's about working together, and that's probably one of the, going back to your original question. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the 16 years is that I cannot do everything on my own to really reach what God wants. We have to work together, and I have to sometimes just stop myself and say, I know I can do this. I know I can do pretty good job at doing this, but perhaps there are other people that are here for this, and it's a better fit for them. So that's one of the biggest things, I guess. Just stepping back and allowing people to do what God has gifted them to do.
Yeah, so let's use that in the context of the ministry that you're a part of now. Learning that lesson, how is that playing out in real time where you're at currently?
As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 different countries that we have, that MTR, Mission to Russia International, has partners. And it's post-Soviet countries like Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Abkhazia. And even though they used to be part of this huge Soviet Union back at one point, now they're all independent, different countries, and they're so remote from each other. And reality is, I can only do so much from being here. I mean, we Zoom a lot with each other. We get together every once in a while if we can. But that doesn't happen very often. Like, for instance, our Ukrainian partners, they cannot come over to Russia. I cannot go over to them. We're in the middle of the war, and it's difficult. At the same time, understanding those limits, uh, not intentionally stepping back and allowing people to do something, but it's almost natural. There's only so many things that I can do for them. The rest is up to them. The rest is up to God working through them, and that's very apparent in what we do in the context of church planting.
Yeah, ministry tends to attract control freaks, people, and I know because I'm a recovering control freak, but real ministry happens when we learn to give up control and let the body function as it should. And Sasha, you're in a situation where you have no choice. You have to do that. Especially when we're dealing, you're in Russia and you have partners in Ukraine. So let's dive into that, because that is, go back to your word amazement. It is one of the most amazing things that's going on. Talk us through the dynamic of what you've had to deal with from the launch of the war to now. There's so many things that you've had to deal with, and that those of us in the U.S. can barely wrap our heads around. But there really is amazing things happening. So can you just kind of walk us through what's been going on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to talk about amazing, you really need to invite one of those Ukrainian guys over to your show and allow them to speak to this, because I mean, as far as my part, it's very simple. I fellowship with them, I communicate, I try to encourage them, but I'm not the one who lives in a state of war, in a sense. Russia is on war with Ukraine, but living in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, you can barely notice there's a war. Things are normal. I mean, malls are open, Public transportation works. We're not being shelled. We're not being bombed. Unlike some of those guys that we partner with in Ukraine. And going back, actually, we began partnering with with some of those church plants in Ukraine. We have 3 currently, and 2 in Lutsk and 1 in Kryvyi Rog. The partnership established after the war began, which is pretty amazing in itself. You know, this mission to Russia, beginning partnering with some of the church plants in Ukraine after the war began. But that's how it worked out. We heard about some of the churches that were trying to be established in Ukraine. We found out about their need and support, financial, spiritual, prayer, and we got a hold of them, and one thing led to another. We became friends, and it's working out. They are doing the ministry there on the front lines in a really tough situation, and we're trying to do as much as is possible within our grasp, both on the U.S. side and with me coming from Russia, just to be there for them, to encourage them, to pray for them, stuff like that, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, could you share a little bit of maybe even some of those words of encouragement that you share with them, or some of your specific prayers that you have for those in Ukraine?
I mean, every time I get on Zoom with those guys and we talk, I they are the heroes. I mean, that's straight out what I say. You are the heroes, guys. You know, the fact that you and all of them have families, you know, kids, small kids like mine, and the fact that they're still willing to stay put and be invested in ministry, even though at times it is dangerous. I mean, for their lives, for the lives of their families. Yet and it's a matter of decision, a matter of faith for them, because on numerous occasions I asked them, maybe it's time for you to relocate because this is a security thing. You know, we as MTR, we are concerned about you guys. And their response every step of the way was, no, we're staying put. There are people who need us. We're invested in the ministry. This is what God called us to, and we haven't heard otherwise from him. And, and that's heroic. They are heroes. And that's what I keep telling them. You're heroes. One of the things that we constantly run into them asking us to pray for is that there's this mobilization that is going on in Ukraine right now, because obviously Ukrainian army troops are short of men fighting on the ground, and so they have special forces that are kind of searching for men all over the place, trying to snatch them, get hold of them, and draft them, take them into the training camps, and then further on to the fighting lines. And I mean, they make no difference who is in front of them. A lot of the ministers in Ukraine have some level of security from that, but again, they come out after everybody, and this is one of the things that guys ask to pray for, so that God would keep their leaders, their men, from being snatched, because it happens right on the street. I mean, uh, a van will drive up to you and they'll just grab a hold of you, put in your van, and drive you off. And your family will find out, you know, next day that you've been drafted, and who knows what's going to happen after that. And there have been instances where that happened to men in those churches, and the very people that they are trying to invest in, their future leaders, it's almost like they're being robbed of their future, and it's a huge need, huge concern, huge prayer concern.
Man, it is. Heroes is absolutely the right word for this. You know, we talk a lot on this podcast about the difficulties, the trials, the hurts and hardships of ministry, but this is a massive dose of perspective, at least for me, and the things that I've dealt with in ministry they just don't stack up. against what those guys in Ukraine are facing right now. So, Sasha, thank you for sharing that. So, talk to us a little bit about where you are in your context. Working in Russia. There's got to be vastly different political ideas, different thoughts about the war among members of your churches in Russia. I mean, I'm sure there are some that are probably none too thrilled that you partner with Ukrainian churches. So, can you share some stories about that? Some insight into that?
There aren't really that many stories. What you're saying is real. It's present. We face that on occasion. I think there are people that aren't really thrilled. Maybe that I work for an American missionary mission organization, and that brings I think a higher level of discomfort for some people. But that's
Yeah.
just, our society, ever since the war began, got split into half. And as far as I understand, that's a very similar to the Ukraine. Ukrainian society is a lot like that. So there are those people that disagree with what is happening. They're against the war. They don't like the killing. And they think that our president made a mistake, never should have got into this war. People are dying. It's horrible. It needs to stop at whatever cost. And those are in the opposition, obviously. And you cannot go in the public space and really voice this, because the very least that will be done is that you'll get fined. But then if you pursue, you will get arrested and you'll get jail time. That's just reality. I mean, we can talk about it on Zoom, or if you were to come over and we would share dinner and just talk around the table, that's fine. That's no problem. But as soon as you go out to the public space and speak out about this, you'll get in trouble. So this is the one side, the one half of the people that are holding on to. So there's another perspective. People saying we're doing the right thing, we're fighting this righteous war, this mistreatment of Russian language and Russian culture in Ukraine. Again, considering the history and the fact that we used to be one big country and Russian was the predominant language, stuff like that. So people are believing that Russia is fighting for the right causes. They support our president. They support the war going on. The logic is we're doing bad, but for a better cause. We're doing uh, war is bad, but it's worth doing because there's a higher cause. I don't know if that makes any sense. So, and it seems that we're about 50-50. Again, maybe it was the fact that the first perspective that I mentioned is not so vocal. It seemed that there are fewer people that believe that, but in reality, there are a lot of people like that. But what makes it even worse, the setup is about the same in the church, in the church context. There are people within a single church body that hold on to both point of views. They don't exactly go 50-50, but even in our small church plant in where we work, or where I work right now, where I minister right now, there are both. We try to not how should I put it? We don't intentionally, we try to keep them separate in a sense, not to make this big fight. But I know there are people who hold on to both sides of the views. I mean, even deep diving further, within the family context, sometimes there are members of one family that hold on to different point of views. For instance, my in-laws and us, we're different in that sense. We hold on to the idea that this is a mistake that should never happen. It should end as fast as possible. And my in-laws, they are older people. I understand they've been raised in a different circumstances. They hold on to different uh, human values. Even though there are Christians, they think that whatever our president and the government are doing right now, and I mean Russian president and Russian government, it's a right thing, and ultimately we will win. That's what they say, and it's sad. It's amazing, but in a totally different uh with totally different what's the word I'm looking for? Color. It's horrible amazing.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so knowing those great divides, that tension that is there, how do you bring about gospel perspective to individuals or from the stage of a church? What does that look like? How does that play out?
Yeah, we don't generally talk about the war and the things that separate us, and that's a sure way to turn people away from you. But I mean, I understand that there's so much tension, and people are obviously tired of this tension, and a lot of people are hungry for just this calmness to come into their life, this peace, some light instead of this constant fear. And that's what God is all about. That's what church is all about. This safe place where you come in, where you can come in and know that your sins are forgiven, know that you're accepted by God, even though you are different and you might hold on to different ideas. That's fine. God still loves you. We still love you. We still accept you, even though you're different. And we can pray together, and that's a common ground right there. We can pray together. Uh, that's how we approach it. We just invite people to fellowship. We invite people to find this secure place where they can be themselves without anybody trying to, tell them what to do, what is right, what is wrong. Here, come meet Christ and see where that takes you. I guess that's our approach.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we in the U.S. We live in a culture that is very divided, and that divisiveness shows up in a lot of churches as well. When I was leading a local church, I had people who left our church because I I didn't vocally support the candidate and the political causes that they did. Now, I didn't support the opposite either. But that wasn't good enough. Like, if you're not pro this, then we're out. And so, I mean, we had to navigate that. But the division you are dealing with, Sasha, is on an entirely new level. And here in the U.S., we tend to get pretty myopic. We tend to think that um, everything revolves around us and we really can't see past what's happening in our world. But you are bringing perspective that the division that we're facing is, I mean, it's significant. I don't mean to minimize it, but you are facing something far greater. And yet the power of the gospel, it still works. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. It still works. And so I just want to thank you for planting your flag there. Like you said, come meet Jesus. We'll sort the rest of it out later. And so can you just tell us the fruit that you're seeing from that approach to ministry?
The fruit are the people. People come out. They find out about our small fellowships that we do, and they come in. They show interest, and they stick around. They like what they hear. I guess they enjoy the fellowship. They enjoy the camaraderie, the warm atmosphere. The decent cup of coffee and a sandwich. But you know. just the gospel, the greatest news, the amazing news that God made me, He loves me, and He wants to see it through till the end. So that people come to church. It's not like it back in the 90s where hundreds and thousands and probably 10,000s would just fill up the stadiums with Billy Graham coming in and doing one of his crusades. Nothing large like that. But again, on a personal level, you become friends with people. You find out who they are and how they live, and they see you as you open up to them, and they begin asking questions. Why are you different? Why do you raise your children differently? For instance, our kids are again, I have four. Three of them are old enough to be in school, and they're all homeschooled, and that's pretty abnormal for Russia. Generally, Russians just take their kids to the public school. That's how I did it. That's how my wife did it. But we decided we would take a different approach with the very intention to protect our kids as much as possible from the negative sides of the society, even at their young age, was the influence. I mean, I understand at one point they're gonna grow up and they'll encounter all that, but I hope by that time they'll have enough uh, ground that they can stand on, enough of their own beliefs that they can fight against all this stuff. So a lot of people, when they find out about the fact that our kids are being homeschooled, one of the first questions they ask is that why did you decide to do this? And this gives us an opportunity to talk about what we believe in, what we want for our kids. And a lot of those things are very common. A lot of people share the same desires for their kids, for them to grow up not being corrupted or influenced, but some of the horrible stuff that is taking place in our schools. That's just, a sad reality. But simple thing like that can open a door for further conversation, and we try to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So on this podcast, we kind of talk about three main things. We talk about lament and endurance and hope. And I feel like you've really given us a good glimpse at the hope that we have in Jesus, the amazingness that it is that we can come in contact with the gospel at all. You've shared a lot about the endurance, the things that you're going through in church planting, in your mission organization, in the relationships that you have with people in your own congregation or with people in Ukraine. And I guess I'm just curious, what are some things that if you could identify, like these are the things that I'm really lamenting in the moment that I'm in right now, what would those things be?
The war, I definitely weep about the war that is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's weird, uh, in a sense that I understand that because of the things that are happening right now, because of the war, there are people in Ukraine and in Russia, as a matter of fact, who are searching for God. All of a sudden, they understood that they cannot control the situation, and they need something bigger. They need something more stable, and a lot of people are turning to God, and that's good. That's positive. But at the same time, I understand there are hundreds, I mean, thousands of people who are actually dying. And think about the 10,000s of families, of children who are losing their parents, their fathers, and a lot of times it's both of their parents, because uh, well, it I mean, I can't even imagine what it is like to live amidst a war where you're being shelled, where you cannot you cannot go over to a grocery store because there just no grocery stores, or maybe there is one, but there's not that much stuff that you can buy there because there's a war, and you don't have money to pay for stuff, and you cannot escape this. You cannot run away from this because you don't have the means, and those are real people. Those are real families. I mean, I can relate to this because back in '90s when the Soviet Union fell apart and there was this transition time that even though Russia was not in war, but things were so horrible. And that's when I was 11, 10. Uh, my parents, my dad worked, but they didn't pay his paycheck for like 6 months in a row. They didn't have the money to buy
Wow.
the food. I had to go and wash cars. Uh, and that, obviously brought in some income, but not enough to feed the whole family. And things are way worse when there's a war going on. And I definitely lament over that. I hope and pray that one day this is gonna stop. And yeah, this is horrible. I weep over this.
Man, yes, we join you in praying that this war comes to an end and soon. It's just, I mean, Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus. There's just things are so incredibly broken, and yet, Sasha, you are pointing to the one who's going to make everything new. He's renewed you. He's renewing the people under the sphere of your ministry. That the redemptive power of Christ is on full display. And man, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us today. Man, we are praying for you. We're praying for the Ukrainian churches and everything that's going on there. But man, just keep pointing people, keep holding out the hope of the gospel, man, because the kingdom is growing, lives are changing because of what you're doing. I am, to use your word, amazed to hear of the good things that are happening in such a hard situation. So, Sasha, thank you so much for the time today.
Yeah, thanks for standing
Oh,
in
thank
that
you
gap
guys.
and being able to encourage the people that need the hope of the gospel. So thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for providing the opportunity to really talk about stuff like this. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support and prayer. Hey, you want to come over and see it firsthand? I invite you to come over. Actually, Mission to Russia, the organization that we all work for, that we partner with in the context of church planting, we're gonna try and restart the short mission trips over to Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, hopefully next year. So it's a reality. It's dangerous, but it is amazing. And you know, you guys and whoever will end up listening to this, you can be a part of this, and this can become an amazing thing for you. So, choice is up to you.
I
Thanks.
love that you're
Thanks for that
restarting
invite.
those.
Yeah.
I love that you're restarting those. Just before we go, when did you pause those trips? How long have those kind of been on the shelf?
Yeah, I think we stopped probably a couple of years before the war. So pandemic hit back in 2020, and that kind of
2020,
canned
yeah.
everything. Yeah, that kind of canned everything. I think that's when we stopped, and then 2 years down the road, the war began, and that made things even worse. I mean, even going over to the United States, I was in the States. I was just recently in the States for ICOM, but before that, I couldn't go for 4 years because I wasn't granted a visa, U.S. visa. Uh, I assume for those very reasons, but God's mercy, I was granted one, and I was able to come 4 years down the road. So.
It was an honor to meet you at ICOM, and I'm so thankful that some of these avenues are slowly opening up, but they're opening, and we just pray that this war can come to an end. And again, we're just so thankful that your ministry is flourishing. And thank you so much for sharing it with us today, Sasha. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, by the way, I am planning to be at ICOM 2026 in St. Louis. It's going to be in St. Louis. So yeah, come out to ICOM, and hey, maybe you'll get to meet me too.
Hey, stick around because the conversation's not over. Mike and Heather are going to unpack everything we just heard a little bit more. But we're curious about your thoughts. How did this episode connect to your life? How does it relate to the ways you've experienced ministry? And leave a comment, leave a review. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, Mike, another episode in. I think that was just such a good conversation to have of an entirely different perspective of any other episode we've had. What were your thoughts?
Oh man. First of all, just right off the bat, just thankful that, we have the ability to talk to Sasha. Just thankful for the ability to connect with him and his willingness to share his story. I said this during the episode, but for me, a lot of it was just a huge dose of perspective. I don't know what I was going to complain about today, but I don't think I'm going to be doing that anymore. It's
Okay.
just it
Yep.
it really right sized my problems. And even looking back on ministry, and again, none of this is meant to, hurt is hurt, trauma is trauma. Ministry's hard. It is, and I don't mean to minimize that at all. But man, when he's talking about, especially when he shared what the churches in Ukraine are doing, and they're afraid their guys are going to get picked up on the street, and that conscription is happening, and you're pressed into service, and just I don't know, just a perspective on just a right sized perspective on some of the issues and problems. So that was one of my main takeaways from it for sure.
Yeah. And yet God is there, and Sasha has that joy and the perspective of eternity to share with the people that he's interacting with as well. Just that there is hope. There's not only despair for those people who are enduring this really hard thing, but that there's so much hope and just light for the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, for some of those people in such a desperate situation, I can't remember who said it, but it's that old thing of, when Jesus is all you have, you realize Jesus is all you need, and that's not a perspective we often have in the U.S. because we have Jesus plus a whole lot of other stuff.
Or we think we can just do it on our own. Like Sasha kind of mentioned, like, I can take care of that. I got it under control. I'm pretty good at it, actually.
Yeah. Man, something like a war breaking out will remind you just how much control is a myth. I mean, we do think, if you really stop and think about it, how much do you actually control? And the answer is really nothing.
No.
I mean, nothing. And they know that far better than we do. And that the fact that Sasha's faith is strong, the people in this church, the people in Ukraine, their faith in Christ is rock solid when everything around them has been shaken to its core. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. It's all about Jesus.
Yeah, and that's
guys,
why we continue to share these stories.
Yeah.
And listen alongside our listeners.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope this episode's been a blessing to you. It sure has to me. So again, thanks to Sasha for taking the time to share his story, and want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of Ministry and.
The Ministry and podcast is a production of the CCL Network, hosted by Mike Edmiston and Heather Walton, produced by Jonathan Burian. The theme song is Rebels by New Alchemist. For more content, you can find us wherever podcasts are found and on YouTube at Ministry and Podcast. That's Ministry, A-N-D, podcast. If you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at ministryand@ccleadership.org. Or you can visit ccl.network for more information about the Christian Church Leadership Network, helping churches and church leaders thrive.